I'm Gerald Bentley. This is LVWS Confidential. Tonight, Las Vegas and the rest of the wrestling world. We're joined by Joseph DeFalco, and he is bringing forward the next generation of professional wrestling to Las Vegas Sunday, May 28th at the FSW Arena. It's Go for Broke. Joseph, what's going on? You're bringing in a new generation of professional wrestling. Going to be your second event that you've promoted, I believe?
That is correct. This is going to be the second event, a little bit of a rebrand on the name change from Glory Rising Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
Went ahead and jumped a little early, I guess, on the gun, but got some feedback from people. But second generation Pro, we're going to more than likely rebrand to New Gen Pro just because second generation is a little confusing and focuses on me a little bit too much, I guess you say. But when there's no second generation wrestlers on the show, it's also a little bit confusing. Like starting to announce talent, people are like, that guy's his father wrestled, but it's like just alleviate any confusion. So New Generation Pro, that way, bring the new generation to, like you said, to Las Vegas.
Absolutely. And I wanted to kind of go over some of the wrestlers that are going to be on the card because it really is a pretty impressive card, and it's going to be a big wrestling weekend at the combat sports capital of the world. You have AEW with their pay-per-view. Also, they're going to have Dynamite and Rampage there that week. And really just a lot of different independent wrestling. So it's going to be a great destination event, and really should be an annual event in Las Vegas based on what they're saying.
Yep.
And you've got a terrific lineup, including a person who, according to Tony Schiavone, who should know, is going to be part of All Elite Wrestling now. Bille Starkz going to be one of the wrestlers on your show.
Yep. She's obviously been making waves in Game Changer Wrestling and around the independents before you're able to see her pop up in AEW the few times she has.
Yeah.
Made waves, obviously, the first handful of times she was there and got a championship opportunity against Jade Cargill. I believe it was last Friday for Battle
recently.
of the Belts. So obviously put her on a little bit more of a grander stage on, I guess, not necessarily a pay-per-view event, but something more branded rather than a dark and elevation to get more
national
eyes.
TV.
I imagine. Exactly. So I'm assuming that event got a little bit more eyes than a normal Rampage or Dynamite may. So that was definitely great to have her on that before she leads. Good.
What separates Bille Starkz from some of the other female wrestlers? What made you want to say, hey, let's get her on the show?
Again, obviously there's a lot of great upcoming women, but someone who, again, we figured that with all the waves she was making here in the past, month or two, even before that at Game Changer Wrestling for the past 6 to 8 months, and Revolver out in Ohio with Sami Callihan. But again, AEW started using her more and kind of wanted to pick up on her before it was too late because, again, the timing obviously was just right because if I would have locked her in time, she may not have done that event due to a contract with AEW having a certain date time frame or not being able to take certain dates anymore because she had signed the contract. But obviously we made that deadline. So I'm very, very thankful that we were able to get Bille Starkz on, and we got a few more girls, a few more women that'll be on the event. So once they're announced, obviously you're going to be able to see that, that's the part of talent that we're looking for the women. Obviously there's tons of hard working women out there, but only a few are going to be able to fit on the show when there's 7 or 8 matches. And
there's only so many
Bille
matches.
Starkz out there. Exactly. But Bille Starkz was an obvious pick because, again, get her before it was too late.
And very much a next generation, new generation wrestler, still in high school.
Yep, 18.
Graduating high school here really soon, which is a different trend in American pro wrestling, something you've seen in Australia and England and Japan starting super young. And you guys in Las Vegas, definitely part of that trend because another wrestler on the show.
Could it be Bodie Young Prodigy? BYP?
Bodie Young Prodigy. Another high school age wrestler. He's been making waves across Las Vegas, a bunch of FSW shows. What separates him? What makes him a unique wrestler?
Again, Bodie, he is 15 years old right now. He's been training since he was 9 years old in our kids class. So he's been doing it 6 years. Yeah, 6 years, almost half his life since he is so young. But he's starting to make waves, obviously getting out to GCW in California during WrestleMania weekend and helping headline the Jimmy Lloyd event. I think it was Generation F. He went one-on-one with Jimmy Lloyd, and that was one of the main promoted matches. So that was something not just I would assume my father was proud of, but I was proud of. I've been seeing
Yeah,
Bodie come up since he was 9, 10, and that is somebody that I always go to bat for. That you need let him wrestle this guy, let him wrestle that guy, because I know that even at 15 or 14 last year, that he's going to go
sure.
out there and he's going to probably do stuff that you haven't seen before. Even at 15, he's going to do stuff that a 15-year-old really maybe not shouldn't really be doing, like a 450 splash.
Sure.
Like holy my God, a fight! He's 15, and he was probably doing a 450 when he was 11, 10. So he was probably doing that 450 when he was 9 or 10. Imagine if he was wrestling at 10. Obviously, that's going to be a little hard on the body, but he was probably doing. We probably had a student showcase for him when he was 10 or 11. So he's probably had his first match. Yeah, I'd say 11 or 12. He had his first match.
Well, so I think the first time. Yeah, I think the first time I saw him would have been at one of your casino shows. He was in with Sky High as part of a 6-man tag. So probably was like 13 years old, and he was in there with 25, 30-year-old wrestlers and holding his own. It's really quite impressive.
Yeah, because 2 years ago we had him. Nick Wayne was also out here. He ended up working our, I believe it was 11th and 12th year anniversary. He went the pre-show.
Okay.
They did the EC3 seminar, and I think Nick was 15 or 16 at the time.
Yeah.
And Bodie was 12 or 13 at the time, and they went out there. People were like, oh my God, they had the best match out of everybody at the seminar, and they're 15 and 13-year-olds. Like, that's a match that I'm hoping to have by the time Nick signs to AEW. Unfortunately, well, not signs to AEW, but debuts fully, I believe in July once he graduates and turns 18.
Yeah, same
but
thing.
It's like,
waiting.
I definitely need to get that. Definitely get that match in. Hopefully by the time that comes around, because him and Bodie, put Bodie on a different platform with somebody such as Nick to be able to see, this 15-year-old can go with Nick. Let's keep eyes on him, because again, hopefully in 3 years he'll be in the position that Nick is and is going to sign to a major company. And we've had him since he was 9.
Yeah, well, that's a testament to the academy, to the wrestling program in Las Vegas. Really unique to a lot of areas of the country. Now, another young talent that's going to be coming in, just kind of hitting that same theme. Jordan Oliver.
Yes, sir.
GCW, MLW, former MLW tag team champion. Really good fundamental wrestler and good aerial wrestler.
Absolutely. Saw him multiple times at GCW, obviously one of the major places that he made his name. He won the Jersey Championship Wrestling title, I believe, 3 or 4 months ago. I'd have to check the timeline, but he's been making waves all over. He's in that Future Legend tournament, and he was here for, I think, Jimmy Lloyd's 18th birthday, and that was the first time I probably saw him since July or August, and he's gotten in, like, fantastic shape. He's definitely in I'd assume the best shape of his life. He's only 22 or 23 right now, but it's like give that kid, because he's still a kid in the business for the most part, 3-4 more years, and you know that again, if he's not going to be picked up in a year or two, I guarantee he'd be picked up in 3 to 4. He's young, making waves, best shape of his life, Jersey Championship Wrestling champion for a reason, which he will be defending at Go for Broke. He will be defending the Jersey Championship Wrestling. We're working on the opponent right now. There's a couple in the hat, but just trying to see what vibes the best, what name might pop the best when people see, whether it's a Titus Alexander or Jack Cartwheel, Jay Vidal, Jacob Boston Young, whoever might pop into that place. Yeah. Bodie might pop into that place. Bille Starkz might pop into that place. Plenty of names going for that title. So we're going to see what would vibe best for the fans, especially on an AEW weekend, and see what people will want to see.
Yeah, well, hey, since you mentioned him, Jacob Austin Young, been making the waves in Las Vegas. What separates him from some of the other talent that's going on right now? What do you see in him that makes it stand out?
Jacob Austin Young, he's been doing this. Yeah, he started with us probably in like 2011 or 2012, because it was before he moved facilities. And he's a very, very heavily Japanese-influenced professional wrestler that even 5-6 years ago, you look up matches and it's, this is an excellent wrestler. Like, he was overdue for that New Japan Strong. Like, I would watch him for years, and there was no reason or no doubt in my mind that he'd eventually be on a stage like that, because he might be young, he might be not the biggest guy out there, but he's going to put on one hell of a match, and it's Japanese influence. Like, technical wrestling's there, his striking's there, his, again, overall ability is there. So there's no reason not immediately to bring him onto the roster because he's somebody I've been watching for 6 or 7 years, and I know he's going to make it onto a grander stage. And he touched it a little bit with New Japan, but he'll get back to it, and it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, got the strong style going.
Absolutely, exactly. The strong style is the best word. That is the best word for it.
Yeah,
because it is. It is an absolute strong style that he brings to the ring. Whether it's those chops, whether it's those forearms, whether it's the wrestling on the ground and smacking you around a little bit down there, or whether it's the little bit of aerial he does with that Japanese twist. You'll see, like, there's definitely you can definitely tell there's a definite an influence, whether it's from Mexico or Japan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different American, different than American style there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and talking about different styles, and just to let people know too, if you're just checking in here, you're going to have the card on May 28th, the same day as the AEW pay-per-view, but you're going to be at noon Pacific time. Yep. So plenty of time to go to both, to go to your event, and then to make it over to the arena to see the AEW event.
Correct. Buy-ins to start at 4 p.m. So
yeah,
ideally we're done by 2:30 the latest. Gives you 45 minutes, 30 even, to get over to T-Mobile, which is a 10 or 12-minute drive. So there should be plenty of leeway. Get some food, get some water, whatever you might want. Bathroom break on the way. Stop by the house if you have time. If you're close, stop by the hotel if you've got a hotel. But should be plenty of time to be able to catch the noon as well as the buy-in at 4, and then the pay-per-view obviously starts at 5 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, terrific. And mentioned Japanese style, Mexican style, lucha libre,
yes, sir.
luchador. If you're going to have lucha libre style, you need a luchador on the menu too. The lucha ghoul, Sonico.
Correct.
Making waves. What are we looking at with Sonico?
Yep, making waves on the West Coast, obviously. Working, I believe, Prestige Wrestling, stuff with Defy, making his way out to Vegas and doing the grab houses and the prod styles. But he's somebody that I used on my first event. And why not have a luchador representative, especially somebody of that caliber who's making waves, and again, in companies that have eyes on them, and he has eyes on himself. He's branded himself and made sure that when you see that mask, you're not gonna be like, oh, you're not gonna be a smart ass and try and make, oh, is that a Rey Mysterio? You're not gonna be a smart ass and make a comment like that, because again, you're gonna be watching him wrestle, and ideally, that is gonna be a recognizable mask by the time it's over. He's been doing it, I believe, under that same style of mask for 3, 4 years, 5 years. So there should be absolutely no confusion when the one luchador on the show goes out there and puts on a hell of a match. Well, there's only one luchador's name to remember, and that's usually the case when he's on shows. Like, there's not a lot of luchador representatives out there anymore, and to bring that style to the ring and actually do it in the proper way is very far and in between. So to have somebody to actually represent that style is more than welcoming, especially on, again, a show that is new generation. It might be trying to bring back those older styles that have gotten lost, whether it's, again, the Japanese influence with the Jacob Austin Young that you're going to see in a New Japan Strong, but maybe not in the WWE or AEW unless they bring in a Japanese wrestler, and a luchador with Sonico, because, again, unless you're watching an AEW, and again, even if it's a small demographic. It's the Pentagon, it's the Junior, the Pentagon, the Phoenix. Like, there's only a handful of guys there. Like, obviously, Commanders are making the waves, and I believe they're getting Drilistico. And again, Vikingo, even though he's luchador, but he's not under a mask. But again, he's still a luchador, so they're getting a little bit more of the representation going on there. But it's very far and few in between. A lot of the main independents out here, you're not going to find a luchador. If you watch Future Stars of Wrestling, there is, I don't think, a single luchador. So it's nice to bring a different style, even though it's something that should be around in independent wrestling, back to the the viewership.
Absolutely. We'll keep rolling through the card here. We had Jordan Oliver already. Jake Painter.
Yep. I saw him debut here at Future Stars of Wrestling about a month ago. He wrestled Blair Brody, who is also another Ace of Spades. I love Blair Brody. I'm working on seeing if we can figure out what spot might be going on for him, but there's so much going on. But him and Jake Painter had a hell of a match here at Future Stars of Wrestling. And Jake Painter, again, you saw the picture. He looks the part. He's 5'10", about 210 pounds. Looks like $1 million. Wrestles like $1 million. He's a great lucha base, so it is a possible chance he might be teamed up with Sonico in some form, whether it's a multi-man match or a tag match. Again, he is a very great base. He's 5'10", and he can mix up the styles that he needs to. So whoever he's in there with, he's able to adapt and do what he needs to do. So there's no reason that I shouldn't be able to add somebody to the show who can work any style they need wherever I would need them.
Which is, I think, something that you're seeing more and more in your new generation of pro wrestling across companies. People that are able to work that hybrid style. like MLW calls themselves a hybrid, a fusion. But I
Correct.
think you are getting more of that. You're not seeing as many wrestlers that are just pegged to doing one style and
Right.
that's it. There is a lot more versatility.
Correct. Again, I believe we mentioned this before. I don't know if those clips are going to be used, but everybody's going to have a recognizable face by the time the event's over. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You're not going to be confused on, oh, what was that luchador's name? Well, hopefully you remember the luchador's name, but either way, the luchador stood out to you, so you're going to figure out that luchador's name when the show's over if you didn't already remember it, because that's the impact these guys, ideally every single one of them and the girls, obviously, are going to have during the show. You're going to see something that they're going to do, or whether it's just the way they wrestle, whether it's their facial expressions, whether it's Sonico's lucha mask, something's going to stick with you through that match or through that wrestler's time under the light, and you're going to want to see what they're doing after the event's over. You're going to follow them for AEW Bille Starkz. You're going to want to go watch Defy Wrestling for Sonico. You're going to want to watch Jordan Oliver on GCW because this kid's 23 and he is fantastic. So ideally, by the time this is over, I said it again, not that these guys aren't on a big stage already, but after this show's over, I want the whole event to be looked at as something special. So everybody that was on that event becomes bigger after it because shit, whether, again, GCW, everyone's already watching Jordan Oliver. They're going to go back and watch those matches because that kid is fantastic and that whole event was fantastic. And it just maybe might raise the adrenaline a little bit more and the endorphins because the overall event really got the energy going.
Well, and people are going to be able to see it streaming too, right?
Correct.
I've got the time on the screen, but you're going to be able to watch it online as well.
Yeah, so we're going to be on Fight Plus. We're going to be doing that through the Future Stars of Wrestling channel just because they have a working relationship and I'm obviously part of the Future Stars of Wrestling. So instead of trying to stream through the FSW network or on Twitch or on Facebook, who's a wrestling fan, I know on Fight Plus, we're getting a sports demographic for males, whether it's, hey, the boxing fan checked it out or the 98% of I'm assuming the wrestling fans, but again, I'm not sure the breakdown. There could be tons of boxing fans that check out the event. But obviously, we're going to have as many wrestling fans that can see it on Fight TV as possible because I believe the pre-show and the buy-in might be on Fight. AEW's pay-per-view might be on Fight. So with that time slot, when they're prepping their TVs and they're prepping things and, let's turn on Fight TV and see what's going on, ideally, my thing's front and center. Ideally, there is no missing my event. So by the time, again, you're seeing the flyer, that's Bille Starkz from AEW. Well, if you weren't watching the event before, well, now you are because – again, all the eyes from Fight TV, no one on YouTube. A wrestling event streaming on YouTube. Well, I'm going to hope that all the wrestling fans got to it or the friends shared it with the friends who like wrestling. And no, Fight TV, you're going to come across it one way or another. You're going to see the recognizable faces and you're going to ideally tune in and be blown away by the event as a whole. And you're going to tune into the wrestlers that you hadn't seen the first time around because you had no idea who they were. Or I need to go watch more Jordan Oliver matches because that kid's fantastic. And again, Jersey Wrestling Champion, so it makes it easy to find matches. GCW, same thing with the Bille Starkz. Go watch 100 GCW matches. He's only had a few in AEW, but you'll find 100 on GCW, which is on Fight Plus.
All putting it together. A couple more here that we'll go through. How about Robert Martyr?
Yep, Robert Martyr over this past WrestleMania weekend wrestled New Japan Suzuki. I haven't seen it yet, but I've taken everybody's word for it because there was a lot of words for it. As soon as I put out that flyer, like I got text messages, like a couple of people who work for GCW, but a couple that work for me, and they're like, "That's a great kid. That guy is again the kid. These guys are so young. Like, I don't want to call them kids, but they're kids in this business. So to see these guys grow and again, we have a time frame of 2 to 15 years to watch these guys grow. It's no reason I shouldn't be getting these young up-and-comers that if they're doing it now this way and they're having wrestling matches with legends like Suzuki, I believe, again, I'd have to double-check his age, but he's under 25. He's a part of that Future Legends tournament. So I'm taking a mix of those guys through the weekend, whether it's the GCW, the Future Legends show, the Natural Born Killers, the Ed Potter show with the women on there. Like, there's so much going on. There's no reason not to nitpick.
Sure.
The best talent. And again, Robert Martyr making waves all over the West Coast. Same thing as Sonico. They're up in Prestige. He's out in California, WrestleMania weekend, and absolutely tearing the house down. He had a match against Timothy Thatcher, I believe. So he's going out there and he's wrestling a who's who at the age of 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Well, I assume in 4 or 5 years, if again, Timothy Thatcher's getting older. I don't know how long he's got in him, but if they're going to start passing that torch along, it's going to be the guys like Robert Martyr who's going out there and they're having technical matches. He's wrestling the 42-year-old vet, and he's keeping up with them. He's going out there. I don't know if he's had a match with Bobby Fish, for another example, but if you're able to go out there and have a match with Bobby Fish or Davey Richards, and you're able to stick toe-to-toe with those guys at the age of 22, 23, even with Jacob Young, wrestled Davey Richards either last year in December or the year before that, and he was able to keep up with them. But there's certain guys that would not be able to. So it's easy to influence those guys into the show when in 5 or 6 years they might be stepping into those places of the best submission wrestlers. And Robert Martyr is absolutely one of them.
Great. We got just a couple more here that we'll highlight. You can check out Las Vegas Wrestling Scene Confidential. We interviewed Kris Brady, everybody's favorite homeboy, just, I think it was last month after his return to Las Vegas. What about Kris Brady? He's an entertaining wrestler to check out.
Absolutely. And again, same thing, mixing in guys that they're going to stand out. There's no confusing him with Sonico or Jake Painter, especially by the time the match is over. Once he gets in there and does his thing alongside with everybody else, that's Kris Brady. That's my favorite homeboy.
Yeah.
Like, he's been making waves. He's over in the East Coast now, but he started training with us 5, 6, 7 years ago before he moved, probably 5 years ago. But he's making waves and beyond. I believe he's working Prestige Wrestling even a little bit. Definitely Defy. I know he's working Defy and beyond. And
up in the Northwest.
Yep. And I believe he did some stuff with Prestige. But again, it's that similar style. He's going to go out there, and by the time the match is over, he's going to captivate you, whether it's his high flying, some strikes. Not too sure how great his submission game is, but it wouldn't surprise me. Again, these guys, all these young up-and-comers are teaching themselves all the styles so that they're not left behind. They understand what it is to be a professional wrestler. It means to adapt. And a lot of these guys on these cards, if they haven't adapted before, they're starting to. Whether it's a Sonico with the Lucha style, it's getting back influenced into especially with GCW and AEW promoting and highlighting it so much, it's easy to get lost. But now, a luchador is a must, especially someone who's good and he's affordable compared to somebody like a Pentagon who's obviously on a grand stage. And that's not a guy you're going to be able to get for cheap if he's even available. But Sonico's affordable, and he's going to give you one of the best matches of the night. There's no reason why in 2-3 years Sonico's not going to be one of the names in your mouth like Commander, if not sooner. Like Commander, somehow, again, his ability and his skill show, but he skyrocketed ahead. Same thing with Vikingo, even though he was the AAA champ. All of a sudden, he started working GCW, and now he's in the American professional wrestling fans' mouth. Because before he wouldn't be. AAA is not that big of a reach here in America, but as soon as he hit GCW, which again, whether it's Fight Plus, whether it's just clips going out on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, wherever it might be, he quickly gathered, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And then he goes and wrestles on AEW TV, and people in the crowd still didn't know who he was. But who's this guy?
Absolutely didn't.
Right. And then by the time the match is over, right, and you said what?
Yeah, I was at the arena, and the people next up at a pro wrestling show, so you would think most of the people there are pro wrestling fans, and the people sitting next to me said, why is this guy wrestling? Who's this guy? Then they saw the little tape piece, a little 30-second promo. He's pretty good. So, yeah, he's really good. And then after the match, they're going, oh my God, that was amazing. That's the best match I've seen in years. So, I mean, you can literally be the person who's, and I know fans like this, you can literally be the person who's ahead of the curve 2-3 years later when you're at a WWE show, an Impact show, an AEW show, an MLW show, and the people around you said, who's this person? Why are they there? Well, they're there because of this. And watching shows like yours can get you there. And, with Kris Brady, I'm sure he does have some submission background because he's got a military background and they teach submission and hand-to-hand. So he's got some real hand-to-hand combat training. Now, one other person who's a next-gen wrestler, but he wants to live in the past, Las Vegas-born Damien Drake, the 80s icon. He's on the card too.
Absolutely. Damien Drake's been making waves here at Future Stars of Wrestling for 8-9 years. Former Future Stars Wrestling Tag Champ, No Limits Champion. We helped train him from, I believe day one as well. So He's been in front of my eyes since as long as I can remember. I was probably a teenager, 18, 19, when he started at 16, 17, because he's only a couple years younger than me. So to bring him to the show only made sense as well. He's not just a good wrestler, but he's a great charismatic. I don't want to say charismatic character. That's obviously a double entendre, but he is. That's the best. Right. He is so full of personality, and his wrestling ability is growing every time you see him. And he's wrestled at AAA. Him and Matt Vandergriff went down to GCW, I believe it was Florida, during WrestleMania weekend, because they were Future Stars Wrestling Tag Team Champions, and they defended those tag team titles on GCW. Damien Drake has been waiting to get that spotlight on his own again, and he's going to show you why. He's probably going to be in a scramble match where he's going to be able to go out there and work with a few different guys and show not just his personality, but their personality as well. Maybe get a little dancing going, do some cool back and forth between them, and really show everybody. But he's the guy that I trust to bring the best out in everybody, because he's got the best in him. He knows what he's doing when he's out there. So it should be easy to transition that into whether it's a triple threat, a 5-way scramble, a roll of the dice scramble with as many guys as I can fit in the ring, or a singles match. I trust him to go out there and absolutely pull the best out of anybody who's going to be in the ring with, because he absolutely does every match.
Well, and I'm sure specific matches will get announced, and you can follow on Instagram, on Facebook as we get closer. One person who's going to be there that's going back a generation, former member of the Nation of Domination, your former European champion, Delo Brown, and a super influential trainer, a big part of Las Vegas wrestling, going to be part of your show.
Absolutely. Huge fan of Delo. He's been around since, I believe, 2012, a little later, 2014, 2013, when he moved here, maybe a little bit after that. But he's been an influential part with Future Stars of Wrestling. He helped train for a little bit. He's on all the commentary for the big shows. And again, he's been doing commentary for Impact Wrestling for a few years before again, not sure exactly what happened, whether it was a contract expiration, didn't re-sign, whether it may have been, but he's fantastic on commentary. So that's exactly what he's going to be doing on my event. I had him on my first show doing commentary as well. And he's going to be doing a meet and greet this time around, because, again, during AEW weekend, nothing better than having a legend, especially someone as that stature, was in WWE, is in the Hall of Fame, to have a meet and greet during a giant wrestling weekend.
Yeah.
So now, recognizable face, no confusion on who Delo Brown is.
Yeah, no, big name. Now to kind of seg over to some other big names and get into your other career that gets into the squared circle. JD3 Studios, photography, really some of the best wrestling pictures out there, and you get into some other photography as well, get some boxing. Asked you to send over just a sample of pictures that kind of jumped out to you. Thought this one was pretty good one as he's getting ready to come out. Kenny, Mega. Where was this picture from?
This was Florida. This was CEO, I believe, 2000 and I want to say 2018. So it was 5, maybe 6 years ago at 2017 CEO. But I snapped this picture and sent it off to Alex Jabali, who runs CEO. He is very close friends with Kenny Omega. I believe they were sharing hotel rooms, or they were with each other at dinner or something. And he showed Kenny the pictures immediately, and Kenny was blown away. He ended up getting this one. And if you head over to Kenny Omega's Twitter profile right now, this is still his photo. This has been his photo for, I believe, 6 or 7 years on Twitter. And this is probably one of my greater accomplishments, even though it's just a photo, but it's a moment. It's a moment that was caught in time. And obviously Kenny Omega, again, big fan of gaming, heavily involved with CEO, with Alex Jabali, best friends pretty much, I believe, very close at least. And to capture that moment, it's stuck on his Twitter for the past 6 or 7 years. So he must have thought that moment was as special as I did capturing it. So to have that there and still be able to point that out, you can click the picture on Twitter right now, and you can still see the watermark in the corner. So it's kind of nice to see the end of the JD3 Studios on there. He has 600,000 followers, and he's one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. How many times is that picture being viewed? And even better, I'll be scrolling through Facebook, and I'll be like, oh, somebody screenshotted Kenny Omega's Twitter caption because he said something, or he posted a picture, and there's my picture right there in the circle. That's mine. There's my picture. Anytime someone posts Kenny's Twitter.
There you go, Nate. And here's living legend of Las Vegas, member of Bullet Club, Kris Brady, the ultimate finesser. And this is winning the FSW title?
Correct. This was winning the Future Stars Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. I believe this was against all odds. I couldn't tell you the year, but definitely, this was a moment. Like, I remember sitting there ringside shooting, and ref goes down. Hammerstone probably has the advantage at this point. Kris Brady's getting ready to get put away, and John Morrison runs down the ramp, lays out Hammerstone. Kris Brady goes to the top rope, and I start bawling my eyes out. I start like legit crying. Like I couldn't even like take photos because I've watched, like, I was there day one with Kris. I watched him walk in from, again, I always get this mixed up, but I believe, I don't even want to, I'm so frazzled, I don't even want to mix it up, but I want to say he moved here from Virginia. I believe he moved here from Virginia. And from day one, you could tell he wanted it. And I watched him grow and put himself through the ringer for this. Put his time, his energy, his blood, his heart, his soul, his spirit, his absolute everything into this. Like, he was one of the very few, there's a handful that you could see wanted it. And I was able to watch that journey again, being young. I was probably 21 when he started here, because it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. So, and he's, I believe, a little bit younger than me. I think he just turned 26 or 27. So he started here 18, 19. He always corrects me. But that moment was, that was probably the moment. That was the only moment I probably ever cried while taking a picture. Like, it was,
that's a connection.
Absolutely. It was it was everything coming together for the man who wanted it the most, the man who put in the hard work and the energy and the time and everything that he could, because he wanted this. You see those pictures, he's 8, 9. He's writing his letters in elementary school. I'm going to be a professional wrestler when I grow up. That is the thing that he wanted most, taking pictures with John Morrison. And then out comes John to help him win the Future Stars of Wrestling title, which I don't believe it was his first heavyweight championship, but I'm sure it was probably one of the most important of his career, especially, again, that was maybe not necessarily a making moment, but that was one of the moments that you set his path on forward, because he held that title and he did not want to let it go. He was going to put on, absolutely, he was going to put on those performances. He was going to give you those matches of the night. He was going to go again. He already put his time, his energy, his blood, his soul, his spirit into it. Why wouldn't he continue? And he did, and he has. And you see him now, and he's the Bullet Club, which is crazy, absolutely crazy that he's in the Bullet Club. Like, the fact that he's the, again, tag team champion currently for Impact Wrestling alongside Ace Austin. He's the Mecca Grand champion. Like, he's still part of Future Stars of Wrestling. He's one of my friends. He's one of my close friends. Not that I have many friends, so I guess I could use the terms close. But yeah, watched Kris Brady grow up in this business, and that was probably, that was one of the most. That was probably one of the most important moments I have captured. Because, looking back at photos,
it has a personal connection.
Absolutely. But even looking back at photos, like, I took those Ring of Honor photos 8 years ago. It's important to have those memories. Like, I don't write a journal. I don't keep video vlogs of myself. So to say, hey, I took these pictures at the least. Hey, I'm in the footage. Like, I can go point out where I'm at. Like, that's something to have, even if it's not pictures of myself. Going to Florida with that Kenny Omega picture. Well, I walked around and took pictures of stuff in Florida. Well, I have those. And I can tie those memories with CEO and Kenny Omega, and I'm able to tie that memory with a certain feeling of being in Florida and enjoying the time and energy there, and then producing one of the best pictures of my life that Kenny Omega agrees.
Well, and I think people that go to wrestling events, that's where there is that great connection, because they see a wrestler that they relate to, they feel, they connect to. They're at the show, they're with their families. They'll remember that. They'll remember the time. And somebody like Kris Brady, you can tell adrenaline is in his soul.
100%. Adrenaline is in his soul.
Hard times make better man. And here's another one of your pictures. There's the American Nightmare himself, Cody Rhodes. This is shortly after he left WWE, gave up on Stardust, started on his own, went back to the independents, and he's holding the 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World Heavyweight title.
And again, not just – go ahead.
I was just wondering, where did that picture come from?
Yep. So I was over in California with David Marquez. It was actually a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood event. Okay. I messaged David, and I knew Cody was there, and a few of my guys were going down. And I asked if it was all right if I jumped in the car and headed down, and if he needed any help with anything, I'd be there. And I was trying to do as much photography at the time as possible. There's a bunch of photos from this event, actually. Like, I probably took 10,000 photos at this event. That was a big one for me. Okay. A lot of my portfolio came from this event. But I remember sitting there, and they were filming for the NWA channel. And I didn't really want to get in the way too much, so I'm like way, way back. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember if it was Cody or the camera guy. It was probably Cody, nicest dude. So he scooted me forward. Oh, no problem. And even the camera guy, oh yeah, get in the shot. It looks great. Like he invited me to get closer to pretty much to be in the shot, even though he was shooting there. So it's like I was in a little bit of the video. I was a little bit of the photos, the thumbnail they used for the video. So the fact that I captured that moment, because that was probably like the end of the interview, because I was just stuck back the whole time, like not wanting to get in the way. And he motioned me forward, and I was able to get some of these photos. And I think this was the first time I really talked to Cody, because I met Cody a couple times over in PWG was the second. We talked for like 30 minutes, like legit, like took his time out of his day to talk to me for like 30 or 40 minutes, even though the show was prepping, people were there. Like we had mutual friends with Sin Bodie and Brian Cage or whoever it may have been, but he took his time to sit there and talk to me for 30 minutes. And this was the first time I ever met Cody. And to have that picture, again, especially with something as prestigious as the 10 pounds of gold, and it was the start of his fruitful journey to get back to WWE, to the top of the wrestling business. Again, this was before he went with Ring of Honor, I believe, because as soon as he was with Ring of Honor, his hair was blonde. I don't think he had brown. He may have had brown hair in the Ring of Honor for a little bit, but it was a very short stint. So once he got to Ring of Honor, started doing the stuff in New Japan, quickly went over to AEW. So to have a moment like this, especially looking back at it, I found this photo and laughed, because to have the iconic old brown hair, it's a memory that might not come back for a very long time. So to have a moment that, again, even if he was to have a WWE championship in his lap, you can't recreate this picture as much as you may want, even if it is with the world championship, because his hair is going to be different. So
that's a world championship that he shares with his dad too.
Exactly. So to have, again, a moment like that, especially when it was something that was like, hey, do you mind if I come to your show, Dave Marquez? And I was just kind of sitting back because I was shooting the other stuff. I was shooting other guys on a wall. Kris Brady had a football at this event for some reason. I remember I have the photo. It's just great photo, but this was the one that always sticks out. And again, a photo brings back so many memories, and it's important to have things like this, especially ones like this, knowing that it was that transition time for Cody from being let go on something as major as WWE to finding himself, even though he wasn't necessarily lost, to be able to grow back into what he loved and to get to where he wanted to be. Because again, like he says, whether he wants to admit it or not, it probably is about that WWE World Championship. He kind of hasn't, but it is about the WWE World Championship. And not that he put himself in a corner at AEW saying he couldn't challenge for that title anymore, but the WWE Championship is going to always be the most prestigious. It's WWE. As much as you want to try and bring back those memories and plant new ones, and hey, there might be wrestlers at the other companies, you can't bring back memories with a family member. I used to watch WWE with my grandma. I used to watch it with my grandpa. You can't recreate those at AEW or a Ring of Honor or whatever it might be. So to be able to carry that championship, if he is to win it, eventually, whether it's next year at WrestleMania or SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, wherever it might pop up, but to have that picture where it was, here's him with the championship with the brown hair, is something so iconic. Like, it might be silly, but when I found that picture again, I laughed, because I know that picture, again, it's going to be far and few between, and there's probably only a handful of times that Cody Rhodes is going to be holding a championship. And how many times was it with brown hair? It was going to be with his blonde, dusty blonde hair. And it's probably going to be the WWE championship. And it wasn't the AEW championship. So the last photo I took of him with that title was going to be the next title he's ever going to have would be the WWE title if he ends up with one soon. So the NWA was the last title for him to hold. That is a very important photo in that aspect as well.
And it's super prestigious, historic title. So you're getting all the generations together. And if he is to win the WWE title, if he is to complete the story, to finish the story, the person he'll have to beat, more likely than not, is the head of the table, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
Yes. I don't want to say I looked myself into this one, but saw that all of a sudden, I believe it was the Tuesday after Raw, like Monday after Raw, they're like, we're going to Vegas for a Crown Jewel press conference because Logan Paul wanted to and issued it or whatever ended up happening. But I was like, is this accurate? Like, it was just out of nowhere. There was no publicity behind it. Like, it just
Mhm.
popped up on the radar. Like, not even anybody on the inside knew that it was happening. So all of a sudden, that day comes, and I find out it's open to the public. Start getting ready. I text a couple of my friends that work with Paul Heyman, Chris Horrell, who's a photographer for, I believe he's freelance, but he goes around and he works a lot of the WWE pay-per-views. He was at WrestleMania. He shoots for the Heyman Hustle. So I checked in with him and asked if they had any photographers in town to cover the press conference for Heyman Hustle, and they did not. So I brought my camera down to, I can't even remember where they had it.
Was it at the MGM?
I can't remember. I cannot remember. I just remember having to call an Uber to and from, and all clustery. But yeah, it ended up being in one of the restaurant bars, pretty big space, and it was packed. I ended up getting there, and I was like, I guess I'm going to stand at the very back, because it was like I was shooting for Paul, but it wasn't like, here's credentials, you're shooting for WWE. It was more, hey, shoot these for Paul Heyman, send him over, and we're going to give you credit for him, which is more than I could ask for. It was last minute, and technically I got to shoot WWE, so I wasn't going to say no. And then a table opened up. Well, not even opened up. Jody the Wrestler was with a couple of his friends, and I saw they had an open spot towards the middle. I texted him and asked if I could join him, and I just made pretty much in the center of the room. It was center with everything, so that was the perfect spot he let me into. And shot this, and this is probably, again, those 5 photos I put in there are probably the ones that I hold dearest. Even though this was in November, I know I'm gonna look back in that photo in 8 months, 9 months. That finished the checklist. Like, if I wanted to count that I shot WWE, that checks the box. And I shot AEW. I was used on their Fan Expo last AEW weekend for Double or Nothing in Vegas. So I checked off AEW technically. I shot for Impact and Ring of Honor, New Japan. I did a little bit of PWG. So it's like I've checked off all these things. So to finally be able to say I shot for WWE, I shot WWE, however I would like to word it, is inexpressible. Even though it might just be a press conference, it's still the fact that I was able to shoot, again, a Logan Paul with such notoriety, because again, giant YouTuber, giant social media influencer, and now he could be a champion in 2 years in WWE, and this was one of his first major opportunities at it against Roman Reigns. These are cemented timelines and cemented moments that cannot change. I can type JD3 WWE right now on Google, and it will come up with Heyman Hustle. That is something that is, again, and the word inexpressible, because it is. That is the best way to put it. It's not, I'm out of words. It is inexpressible. The fact that I was able to shoot that, and again, it may have just been a press conference and right time, right place, but I was at the right time. I was at the right place. I captured that moment as soon as it says, I am the table. Oh, sorry. It was acknowledge me.
Yeah.
Right, because I thought he was right. Then later, when Logan Paul when he said, I am the table, that was a great shot also that I have. But it was, again, capturing that moment, which it's his catchphrase now. It's his signature. Acknowledge me. And to have that facial. Go ahead.
It's been a tremendous run too, because he went from being the baby face that wasn't acknowledged by the WWE.
This is my yard now.
They said, hey, you're jamming him down the throat, and now he is acknowledged as the biggest star in the company. And there was plenty of people saying, hey, it's time for Cody to win, but there was also a lot of people saying, well, he's the head of the table. You can't take it away from him.
Right.
So,
and again,
Las Vegas connection, Solo Sikoa was instrumental in it with the Samoan Spike.
Yep. I was sitting there watching it live, and to watch Solo walk out was crazy, because I'm sitting there look up. I'm like, okay, I figured Solo may come out with him. Yeah. But then he had a lower third, and he was out there for the majority of the match. They let Solo be in the main event of WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
He was the most influential part. Without a Solo, there would be no Roman Reigns as a champion a couple times now, especially for Cardiff with Drew McIntyre. And again, now with Cody Rhodes on the night 2 of WrestleMania. But I'm sitting there watching. Solo gets thrown out, send him to the back. Match is going on. I could see Solo sneak. I'm like, that's Solo. I saw him sneak a little bit. Then the Usos come out. And I knew at that point, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a dangerous finish to this match. And out came Solo, Samoan Spike. And again, Solo Sikoa, trained by Future Stars of Wrestling, except for Fall 2, was the reason at WrestleMania that Roman Reigns defended and successfully defended his championship. That is just crazy to say. Like, watching him walk out was crazy enough, and then seeing him sneak back out and then being like, oh my God, this is going to be like, he's back in the match, which means, he was out there for the majority of the match to begin with, but to bring him back out, there would be absolutely no reason for him not to be a part of the ending of the match. That is trust. That is something so important. And he might be related to the Usos. It doesn't matter. He's put in the I'm going to cuss for the first time. He has put in the fucking time and the effort and the energy just as much as Kris Bay. And people, again, not that I see it anywhere, but if they want to say that he was handed anything because he's the brother of or the cousin of, that is bullshit. Because you see him in NXT and he was not the brother of, he was left to the streets. They knew what they were doing. And he put in that time and effort and energy down there, and they saw what they had, and they knew that it was important to get him in line with where they were going. Because if they were going to keep up with that, he's not a part of the family, they knew if they kept that up for too long, they were going to lose that. Yep. So, and again, with somebody of that status, with somebody of that skill and ability and size, and he put on that size and he can move. Because he put on that size here because he was a little smaller here when he started, and he started gaining weight, and learning how to move with it, and seeing him live, because I saw him live on that grand stage doing that. My God, it is fruitful and beautiful, and I love it.
Yeah, like needs to see the guys move
again.
You don't want to lose somebody, but you want to see him be successful.
Exactly. And again, same thing with the Kris Bay. He's at Impact Wrestling. He's able to thankfully still wrestle for us, but I have pictures of Seth Fafá 2 all over my hard drives. Yeah, I have those memories. So when I say, holy shit, I watched him live too, and maybe in 2 years he could be the WWE champion and you never know. He is the problem. He's pretty much undefeated up until the match with Cody Rhodes. So what happens if Cody Rhodes wins the title in 6 months? Why couldn't there be a Solo Sikoa challenge immediately? Because he could, again, the way they were going with him, he is a top star.
Absolutely.
Like I told my dad, there's no reason at SummerSlam Cody Rhodes can't main event with Solo. Solo is now a main event star.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is no question about it. He I'm watching his you see his social media, and it's like when he is in the main event of WrestleMania, let me follow this guy. But it's like his Instagram blew up.
Sure.
From moving from NXT to the main roster. Obviously, he has more eyes on him, but people took the time and energy to look him up because, holy shit, this guy is excellent. Not because I'm going to follow him because he's the Usos' brother. It's because this guy is fantastic, and I want to follow his journey on whatever he does. Again, that's what I want to do with my show. By the time the show is over, if you didn't already follow half of the guys or 90% of the guys, you're going to, because where are they going next? Oh, that guy does wrestle for AEW. Oh, I live in Ohio. I didn't know he wrestles in Ohio. You want to follow these guys and make sure you're seeing these guys because in 6 years, they're going to be signed to WWE. They're going to be the next Austin Theory. They're going to be the next Santos Escobar. They're going to be whoever you see now that's coming up, and you're going to be like, holy shit. Again, a Willie Mack that's been on the forever. Willie Mack's wrestled for us since 2009, 2010, and he's gotten his love on AEW. I'm not positive if he's signed or not, but it wouldn't blow my mind if he did within the next month or two. He's
an entertaining competitor.
So it's like, and WWE had him for a little bit and let him go, but it's like, who's Willie Mack when he gets to AEW? Because certain guys, they don't get that grand stage, even though, again, it might not necessarily be WWE. Game Changers helping with that a ton. But there's a lot of guys who can't get there. Like I have, for example, Jarrett Diaz on the event and Richard Kings. They're working AEW Darks, but you look at them and you're like, they are in great shape. And you look at them and say, who are those guys? Where do they wrestle? Well, hi, they're wrestling for my event before AEW. So ideally, if you recognize their face from AEW and they do grow a little bit of fan base from there, because that's the idea. Viva Van Wrestling 24 times on AEW, you would hope that 500, 2,000, 750, 750 people or 2,000 people, 10,000 people follow her because they want to follow her journey, because they hope she signs to AEW, but I'm going to follow her journey just in case she doesn't, or if she's wrestling somewhere else. That's supposed to be the whole idea. You're supposed to market yourself in the match like that. That's why, again, these wrestlers are important to have brands, because people are going to follow them and buy merch and follow their brand and grow with them. Ideally, the idea is to grow with that particular wrestler, because
absolutely
it makes it more important to you.
Makes that connection. And we got one more picture. I was just kind of going in sequential order. This one,
yes,
from Ring of Honor.
This was
going
probably
through the table there.
Yeah, this was probably one of the first photos I ever like took. Like I mentioned before, I'm not sure if that clip's going to be used, like I said, but I picked up a photography camera, and I knew what I was doing because of video stuff, but I never shot photos straight.
Yeah.
So I knew my framing
because we're going live. So go ahead and explain. Yeah.
So with this, I picked up my friend's camera. He had a Canon 70D. He was my videographer for Future Stars of Wrestling alongside me, so we both shot together. So I learned framing from doing video work on wrestling matches for 4 or 5 years. And Ring of Honor needed a photographer, and I said, "Hey, Dad, tell them I can do it," even though I didn't really have a photography background. But again, I know how to frame a photo. I worked with cameras in production since I was 12 or 13. I'm overzealous at 17. I can do it. And yeah, I picked up that camera and I took some amazing photos, not trying to pat myself on the back or be, like put myself over. But that set my career in motion for photography because I just shot raw. I didn't change colors. I just shot straight the way the camera was and edited it. And this was probably one of the most special moments I captured.
Well, that's a great mid-frame photo. You see where it's going. I'm pretty
Absolutely.
sure I think I know who's in there. Who are the for the audience? Who are the two wrestlers in the picture?
It would be Adam Page, and I believe I don't think it was Mark, so I'm going to believe it was Jay Briscoe, who is
recently
no longer with
departed.
Us.
Jay Briscoe,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely
getting
crazy,
the
terrible,
dead eye
terrible.
through the table there. Yeah, no,
absolutely,
that's horrible.
It is. But what a great guy to work with. Jay was absolutely the best. Page was the best as well. But working with those guys was amazing. Again, Ring of Honor, that was the first event I really shot. So shooting the guys and working with the guys, I was kind of in my shell and antisocial, but I started posting photos and guys would hit me up. "Hey, these are amazing. Can I?" And by the time I knew it, these guys are making their pictures, my pictures, their profile picture, and they're posting it, and people are like, "This is a great photo." Like it's humbling, especially when it was my first time shooting, and I really didn't know what I was doing. Like I knew how to frame, but to be able to post those pictures online and for people to really point out and, wow, that's a special photo, or that's a good photo, that's a great photo. Who took this? Like that's very humbling. And to capture a moment, again, just the framing on that photo made it important. But it was probably one of the most, like, I remember posting that one to Facebook and everybody loved it. But
yeah,
that was the one that, again, it set my everything in motion. It set my
got
photography.
everything rolling.
Because again, as soon as I posted that, as soon as I edited it up, I was like, "Oh, the colors here are amazing." You see the blue spotlight in the top. You see the colors, and you can see the table, the crowd's on their feet. You can see what moves happening. Like it was a moment. Cotton again. The moments Cotton time are the most important thing. He was at his height on the jump. Like that picture cannot be recreated. There is a roaring crowd. There is two phenomenal wrestlers. There is a moment Cotton time that you can't capture again. And I believe led to the finish of the match as well.
Yeah.
So that was very special.
The best photos are the ones where you see the action in the picture too.
Yep.
Hey, we'll go to the championship round here. Just a few quick questions to wind it down. So we've talked a lot about the current wrestlers. Who would be your favorite wrestler of all time? Is there one that stands out?
Of all time? I'd have to say no, because I get asked this question a lot. There's not one particular wrestler that I'd be able to choose.
Okay. How about this? Who do you feel is currently the most underrated pro wrestler out there?
It depends. Again, it's not that hard of a question, but it becomes hard of a question because I'm thinking about it in every aspect. Because again, there's guys like Ray Phoenix who he's a tag team champion, Ring of Honor at AEW, but he is probably one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. Like, if you put him in there with anybody, he is going to deliver. Kenny, Will Ospreay, tag match or singles, but you give him singles matches and holy shit. Like, he has the charisma, even though, again, he's a luchador, but he still has that charisma and energy, and he gets that crowd on his side, and he's able to have – it's not a spot fest. They're able to tell stories. That's the important thing. Like, they're able to tell stories in their matches, yet captivate you while they're wrestling. That is a very hard thing to do, to be flashy and, oh, look at this moonsault, but still sell your back just right because of that thing earlier in the match. And, oh, we're leading into the finish, but I'm still selling my back. Like, I'd go with Phoenix just because, again, not people underrate him, but he is definitely someone that if you let him be a single star, there is no reason that he could not be a world champion in AEW. He would give you the match of the night. If not, and exactly 1-to-1, Pac. Pac is absolutely excellent. If I say Phoenix, I have to say Pac because Pac is actually a singles wrestler and is able to focus on that more and looks like $1,000,000, long hair,
part of the Death
accent.
Triangle.
Like he brings everything to the table, but he was misused in WWE. And he's mixed in a 6-man in AEW, so he's definitely somebody I'd say that's underrated. He's somebody who could be a champion anywhere, even Japan. He was. Bring him back to Mexico. He can wrestle anywhere and adapt to any style. So Pac's probably my underrated pick.
Okay, that's a good one. And where do you see new generation, next generation wrestling being in 2 years?
Ideally, in 2 years, New Generation Pro will have a little bit more of a working relationship with Future Stars of Wrestling.
Okay.
Ideally, by then, I got a couple of pitches in mind, but obviously we have to get there first. But I don't see any reason why Future Stars of Wrestling and New Gen Pro Wrestling can't present a Future Shock. And it gets my feet a little bit more wet on the smaller shows where it's not stepping on his feet at the casino events. And it's me not expecting, again, I'm not going to expect 600 at a casino like Future Stars of Wrestling does my first few events. But if we can build something special where the name's being said, whether it's cross-promoted or not, the more New Generation Pro Wrestling is being said, the more it's out there. The more it's out there, the more eyes it gets. The more eyes it gets, the more fans it gets. So it's like, just need to keep going. And hopefully in 2 years, survival of the fittest, Future Stars of Wrestling versus New Generation Pro Wrestling. Winner take all.
2 rings, war game style, blood and guts style. Let's go. We'll give it voice. But coming up Sunday, May 28th at the FSW Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada at noon, Go for Broke from Second Generation Pro Wrestling. So great event to get out to. We'll be sure to have more updates on it as it gets closer on Las Vegas wrestling scene. Joe, thanks for stepping into the ring. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll be keeping up to date as we get closer to the show.